Think about it, how much are Zelda rupees worth in real life? Hi, I'm Dylan, and if you're like me, you probably wondered your entire childhood how much you could buy a fire-resistant Goron tunic for in real life. Thankfully, I have the answer. To be super scientific, I'll only be using Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask to determine the cost of rupee, as they're set around the same time period and in similar yet very distinct locales. Before we look at what a rupee is, let's look at what it can buy and what real life equivalents we can buy. Deku nuts, 2 rupees a piece in the game, or you could spend $60 buying a flashbang grenade, which you can terrifyingly buy in the States. I don't know why you would want one, but you can have it. Deku Shield, 40 rupees in-game or $120 for a functional round buckler, which is a type of shield, I think. A bomb will run you 7 rupees in-game, or you could terrifyingly buy an RGD5 hand grenade for only $5, which I will reiterate is terrifying. If you add a $30 RC car to that, you have a bomb chew, which in-game will run you 10 rupees. The promised Goron tunic in-game costs you 200 rupees, but in real life, it would probably be a special fire proximity suit, which you can buy for $650. And a 300 rupee Zora suit would easily translate into a $1,000 set of scuba gear. I did the math on a bunch of others that I won't bore you with, except my favorite, the Big Bomb Bag, which apparently is made out of a Dodongo's stomach, and the only real life equivalent I could find was a pig's bladder, which will cost you $5. Don't ask me how I know that. If we average out all the prices, 1 rupee equals $3 US. If you isolate the two games, however, a rupee in Hyrule is worth $5 US, while a rupee in Termina is only worth 2. This might be because of the two vastly different economic cultures. Hyrule in Ocarina of Time finds itself devastated by a massive war, while Termina finds itself facing mass emigration due to an impending apocalypse. The world post-World War II saw a massive economic boom known as the Golden Age of Capitalism, a similar boom that is probably happening in Hyrule in Ocarina of Time. The boom lasted from 1945 until the 70s and only stopped because of the 1973 oil crisis, but more on that in a minute. The highest valued currency in our world is that of Kuwait, which is valued at over 3 to 1 US. They see 95% of their export revenue coming from oil. Could Hyrule, with a mining-based economy and a similarly high currency worth, be drilling for oil? If so, it might explain their absurdly high dollar value, as long as the presumed mining Gerudos don't go declaring an oil embargo as with the 1973 oil crisis. We might actually see their economy continuing to grow. But how could these giant gems only be worth $3 US? Maybe they're not. The manual of the original Legend of Zelda game referred to the currency as rubies, while a typo on screen called them rupees, and the name stuck. Since they are in fact rubies, or Corundum, the family of multicolored gems to which rubies belong, how much would they actually be worth? The average 10-year-old boy is 1.3 meters tall, and Link is pretty freaking short, even for a Fokuri. He can barely reach the height of a standard doorknob, which is 91 centimeters off the ground. That's right. Child Link is only 3 feet tall. The rupees come up to Link's waist, and knowing that the average person's leg length is 45% of their total height, we can calculate that the rupees are 38 centimeters tall. When he picks up a rupee, we can see that it's as wide as his head and half as deep. Knowing the average diameter of a 10-year-old boy's head, we can calculate the size and volume of the rupee. Again, don't ask me how I know that. Knowing the average density of Corundum and the price per carat, we can figure out that 1 rupee equals 148 million US. However, if the rupees are cheap glass-filled ones or man-made rupees, they'd be much more reasonable, coming in at 1.4 million and 3.7 million apiece respectively. Totally reasonable. Totally. While you might think this might cripple their economy due to inflation, they have an interesting philosophy, or at least set of rules in place to prevent this. You can only have as much as you can hold. Termina has a bank while Hyrule doesn't, but either way, there is a limit to how much money you're allowed to have. In Termina, you can have up to 5,499 rupees in the bank at any time, while in Hyrule, you can have 500 rupees, providing you have a big enough wallet. You might go as far to say that Hyrule is a communist society. Well, I guess they do have a monarch, so kinda? Which might explain why people go to such lengths to hide their money in tall grass and totally smashable pots. What a bunch of idiots. So how much money can you have? In your wallet, you could hold up to 500 rupees or $74 billion. And in the bank, you could hold up to 5,499 rupees or $819 billion. Which means that at any one point you could have the worth of 10 Bill Gates, or one Bill Gates smile. That dude's cool. Since there are no banks in Hyrule and we know how many people live there from a previous video, assuming that everybody has a full wallet, and I mean, why wouldn't they? They're bursting at the seams with money to the point where they're hiding it in the freaking grass. The amount of physical money in Hyrule would be $13 trillion. That's 4 trillion shy of the entire US national debt and 8 trillion more than there is physical money in our world. But where did all this money come from? If not from oil, perhaps from inheritance. Ocarina of Time is set post a large and devastating war which likely decimated a large portion of the population. The Bubonic Plague killed an estimated 60% of the European population, and the survivors got super rich. Many inherited a lot from their recently dead relatives, which led to a temporary boom in the economy. Perhaps a similar thing happened in Hyrule. Which answers a question I asked a few weeks ago. Why do the people of Hyrule just stand around all day? Because they can. They are so ridiculously rich that they never have to, and probably never will have to, do anything ever again. What do you guys think? Are rupees worth millions of dollars, or are their representations as giant gems just that? Representations. Let me know in the comments, and if you haven't already, be sure to click right on my face to subscribe, or at least think about it. Is destiny our destiny? Let's see what you guys thought. Darkrise714 points out that Alexander and the Mongols actually were good administrators. It just so happened that when they died, their generals started squabbling for power and such. That's a good point, but don't you think that a good administrator would plan for their death and have a better backup plan in place so that their empire isn't divided into a bunch of smaller empires? I would think so. Zoe Hanji writes in a bunch of thought-provoking questions about space colonization, which I can't hope to answer in this video, but I'll link to it in the description. It's a really good read. A lot of you wrote in that space colonization could never happen in our lifetime, and that might not be true. NASA has just announced they'll launch their test for their first manned mission to Mars by 2018, and SpaceX has promised a man on Mars by 2025. And once automation takes over all our jobs, we'll have all the time in the world to dedicate to space exploration. See CGP Grey. ArtyKid points out that it's very unlikely that we'd ever repeat our past mistakes. That's totally not true. We repeat our past mistakes all the time. I think maybe we repeat less of them as we go forward, or maybe we don't. I don't know. We're not the smartest people, and we make the same mistakes over and over and over again. And Nixhound Weavern points out that our sun will eventually die out and in the process kill us all. I don't believe in the game Destiny that they go beyond our solar system, but perhaps our destiny is beyond destiny.